We have 24 hours a day. Organize your day. Work hard. I'm here to talk about success.
Welcome to Electric Theory.
You've arrived at your destination.
This is Electric Theory, the podcast where people power performance and innovation. I'm Joshua from Bolt Human Capital, and after years of helping businesses transform from the inside out, I've learned one thing. Culture isn't. It's a system. Each week, we spark bold conversations that challenge outdated thinking, reduce costly turnover, and explore how technology, leadership intersect to unlock human potential. If you lead with people, this is your playbook. Let's plug in. Welcome back to the show. The show is Electric Theory, where we explore how leaders in hospitality build teams, scale experiences, and innovate with both culture and strategy at the center. I'm Joshua Hunt, founder of Bolt Human Capital. We partner with hospitality brands to turn culture into durable competitive advantage, aligning people with systems and service to drive meaningful performance. And I got today a really good friend, colleague, Kevin Lillis. Man, where do I start? He is the CEO of Hospitality Alliance. Kevin brings more than 3 decades of experience across hospitality, real estate, food and beverage, and destination development. Under his leadership, Hospitality Alliance has launched restaurants, bars, food halls, event destinations, and mixed-use experience, including well-known concepts in Dallas-Fort Worth like Victory Social, Jackson, Texas Kitchen Beer Garden, and the community-oriented ventures in major markets. He has also led the F&B and real estate strategy at iconic properties in New York City and creates initiatives that connect hospitality to community impact. He's also a board member for Genesis and a board member for 24 Hour Dallas, amongst other things, from YPO to you name it. Kevin has his hands in it and feet in it because he has a UFC background and fighting background. It's great to have you here, brother. Let's go ahead and dive in.
Let's do it.
Yeah, so on the way up here, I quickly chatted with Kevin and he said, you know what, we should turn this into a series. And I was like, I think you're right. Because we share a lot of passion about the similar opportunities within hospitality. But so if you can give us a quick rundown of your story and your background and how you got to where you are today.
Sure. Started in real estate law as a freshman in college. Made my way through school, working at a law firm during the day and bouncing at night because all I knew how to do was martial arts. I didn't know anything about food and beverage, wasn't old enough to serve. Thought I wanted to be an attorney, learned enough through those 4 years to learn I didn't. Got into real estate investment banking, did a lot of transactions, got to see kind of different sectors have their peaks and their valleys. Then got into the hotel field. I was the head of real estate for a hotel company because that was a logical progression. And that's when, in the Great Recession in 08, 09, our bars and restaurants were closing. We were a big boutique hotel company. It was now known as Dream Hotel Group. Then it was Hampshire Hotels and Resorts because our capital source was Hampshire, England. And that's when I became our head of food and beverage because the problem that my boss needed me to solve was no longer real estate. It was food and beverage. And so that's how I shifted over, became our head of food and beverage. We launched Dream Downtown. That was a big success. Dream South Beach, did Lamb's Club. And then I took over the Plaza Hotel in 2011 when Sahara purchased the Plaza Hotel as well as Dream Downtown, and I went with the sale. And then Hospitality Alliance I launched in 2015.
And that was launched where?
That was launched in New York.
Okay, it started in New
Our
York.
first clients were MasterCard. We launched the Beyond Food program to compete with all the things American Express was doing with their Black Card and Platinum Card holders. So we launched that program with MasterCard. We took over the portfolio for Matt Cali, which was the largest landlord in New Jersey at the time. They were taking these old industrial buildings on the waterfront in Jersey City, and it had been this traditional, if you're an office building, the only people that are in here are the office tenants. And if you're eating at those restaurants, because you have your office upstairs, and office spaces were just not parts of the community. It might as well have been islands sitting right in the middle of these cities, as a lot of traditional office was. So we were helping them make it more porous. We brought in a ferry stop for people to get directly to the city, because the path from there was 4 minutes to get to Wall Street. So it was kind of Wall Street West, had a huge financial services component. Goldman Sachs had a huge operation there. JP Morgan, Bank of America. So those were our first clients. It was Carlyle Group, Matt Cali, and MasterCard.
Nice.
And then we moved down to Dallas when AT&T did a nationwide search for who their hospitality partner was going to be upon the successful purchase. Had to go through United States Supreme Court, the purchase of Time Warner and all those entertainment assets. As that company went from being a huge telecom company to the biggest entertainment company in the world, we were their partner in trying to help them roll out those assets.
Wow, that's awesome. So what problem were you setting out to solve when you started Hospitality Alliance?
I think by just luck of the accidental journey of my career, I've been able to see different facets. And I think that's where, and it's certainly true of hospitality, but I think it's true of a lot of industries, that people don't see the storm clouds until it's raining on their heads, because they live in the space they live in, and they don't know or pay attention to the spaces that are all adjacent to them. You're like, the storms are right on the clouds are right on the horizon. If they don't see it, if they're like, I'm in hospitality, I don't know what's going on in banking or in home building or legal, so that's where I think I've been lucky, really lucky. Lucky that when I have had run into a brick wall in my career, be it when that was 04, 05, that's kind of when I started the first pivot, and then the Great Recession due to all the kind of mortgage-backed security collapse in 08, 09. Each time a sector a door closes and a door opens. And I've been lucky and fortunate enough to be able to walk through that next door, and always very deliberate in my career of not letting my learning curve flatten out. Anytime I was comfortable, I knew it was time for me to go. Anytime I was doing great in a job and things were happy and boss is happy with me, I'm like, it's probably time for me to leave and go to a place where everyone's unhappy with me because I'm just struggling to keep my head above water.
Spoken like a true fighter, which, okay, tell us a little bit about that, right? You had a career in fighting, and you just said that you would shift when things get not as challenging. So you were just essentially knocking people out and said, you know what, it's time to move industries, trying to do something else.
Anytime I think my father instilled that in me, and some of my mentors early on that were like, if you're under 30 and you're comfortable, you're doing something wrong. And I think pretty easy to become a master of one thing. But if you're a master of one thing, particularly in today's economy where labor is under such assault, you are in a really rough spot. And I've now watched it happen multiple times, and we keep seeing it day after day. We worked with AT&T, and we started with them. They had 310,000 employees. 5 years later, they had 140,000. We have 170,000 people that know one company and one company's systems and one company's software and how reporting works for that one company. Well, what happens when you get that pink slip and you're like, oh, shoot, my entire resume is around a company that doesn't exist.
I think about engineers, developers right now that may have spent 4 or 5 years in college learning how to code and develop, and then you got things like Copilot or GPT where they essentially can assist a mediocre developer to become a great developer overnight. I totally share in that sentiment. What do you think is on the horizon then for the space that you're working in, right? You said when one door closes, another door opens. What door do you think may close in hospitality?
All the fundamentals of hospitality are currently broken. But on the other end of it, from a societal standpoint, the world needs us more than ever. So I think a lot of it is just faith that because the world needs us more than ever, pre-COVID was the first time that in basically developed the nation's history that the impact of suicide and overdose, which I consider to be the same thing, life expectancy for the first time since 1910, with the exception of massive world wars, dipped for the first time. That was pre-COVID, and it was because of all the isolation, because people aren't interacting, because if a person used to have 5 close friends, which was the 70s, the 80s, now they have 1 or 2. People are becoming more and more isolated, just at a time that we have this disease that forces you to become even more isolated to stay safe. And now it's more of social media, more living behind a screen, more remote work, less in person. And I think with all of that, it creates a carnal need for people to interact. And that's why I believe that authentic, hospitality experiences, authentic places that can support that creation of memories and those interactions between people are something that's critically needed. And I think from a business standpoint, when people primarily start companies to make money, I think the first thing is recognizing, what do people need? What's the big vacuum that's not being addressed? What does our society need? And that's what society needs, but we're at a time when construction costs is through the roof, labor's through the roof, insurance has shot up massively. With tariffs and some of the other things going on, cost of goods is wild. It's like the food and beverage economics are broken. I can't raise money right now for a restaurant because I can't look at an investor in the face and say, this is a good idea right now. You know what you should be doing? You should be investing with me in restaurants. No, you should not. If it's a vanity play and you like this, cool. Do not invest in restaurants. Fundamentally broken. It is not a good business model. That's the model that I'm part of right now. Still recognizing, as a society, we need this. So how does it go away, and does at some point something change from a policy standpoint? Because a lot of it comes down to policy.
Correct. And I mentioned something I think very valuable, right? Authentic experiences and memories. When I travel, or I just have a friend come in from Tokyo or whatever, right? And I'm like, oh, where did you go? Where did you stay? You're asking about those experiences, and those experiences are all hospitality, right? At the end of the day, you have people you're traveling to the States, right? And that's what you're looking for. And one of the reasons why I joined 24 Hour Dallas, I had a friend come from London, and he was looking to do things later in the evening, and it was hard pressed to find a good restaurant that was open at the time that he arrived. It was also hard pressed to just find a unique experience overall that was safe, fun, vibrant, and that was a wake up call for me. I was like, what are we supposed to do with where things are trending, right? With me working in the employee engagement space, I have pretty good data around not isolating yourself and why that is detrimental to you as an individual, but then also to a society, right? And you touched on not having best friends. There's also data around marriages, right? Less people are getting married these days. These things are signals that I think that we're ignoring, and I think where you take your girlfriend or fiance is out to a restaurant, right? You go on a honeymoon, you're staying in a hotel. These are all things that all have red thread back to hospitality that I think society is ignoring.
And food and beverage is culture. It's
Correct.
history. It's
Correct.
Storytelling. It's when you're going to Tokyo, you want to go to an authentic place of Tokyo. When I've taught wine classes at our company, anytime they think of pairing a wine, the most simple way to think of pairing a wine is what kind of food comes from the location that wine comes from. Because that wine is built for that food. You don't have to do too much brain damage.
Yeah.
All right, this is Provence Rosé from south of France. What does it pair with? What kind of food comes from there? That's what it pairs with. Because it's all history.
Right, it's all
history.
connected.
That's what they were making there to go with the food that was coming there. Oh,
Correct.
it's a lot of seafood. That's a lot of salty things coming off, and it's a temperature, and it's not that much brain damage.
Correct.
It's really, it's much more about just the history of people, the history of this plant, when it's even beyond political boundaries. It's just geography. Places will change borders, but it's like this grows here and that grows there, and this has this kind of soil, has that kind of sun, and this has this kind of a rainfall, and that's just the history of people. And you're like, when I go to Miami, I want to experience this. When I go to Tokyo, I want to experience that. And it's getting watered down as the authentic groups can't survive. It's the same story as boutique hotels.
Yeah.
The boutique hotel era, when it was the Thompson and Gansevoort and the Standard and Kimpton. Bill Kimpton's just an icon, and Kimpton's intercontinental, and Hyatt is Dream and Thompson, and they buy the brand for what it was, but then once you put it into the mold, some of that is lost.
Right.
And some of that's lost just because of a need, because we're saying it's a need for business efficiency. But in that business efficiency, something is lost.
Correct.
Some authenticity is inevitably lost. So it's financially a good move, but it's a loss for culture.
I look at it as a short-term win.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, I'm a capitalist, and I believe in short-term wins, long-term wins, but I also believe in the person. And as a capitalist, I do think that we should consider that people are the number one currency, right? If you are a competitor and you value, people and also wealth, there's a way to do both. And I just, deep in my heart of hearts, like that's how I've always felt. So what would you say to an investor or someone who's in like the private equity space, right? For example, to your point, like it's like, hey, no, let's buy this, let's rinse and repeat. Hey, we don't need all of that culture because that just makes things more complicated. Because if we want to move someone else in, then we'll have to revamp and all of that, right? Like what does that fine line look like? Because I don't know the answer to this.
I'm a capitalist. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've started and funded all my own businesses going back to when I did Victory Combat Sports 15 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, I'm enough of a capitalist to know enough about business that you see time and time again that at least for the last 10, 15 years, the most successful businesses are the ones with the least amount of labor. That's where everyone's going into self-storage facilities.
Right.
They love these server farms. Massive business. One of my friends from YPO just sold their business out for $40 billion. There's just massive, Andrew shops. It was just these massive server fields for all the stuff that's in the clouds. And and that's a huge component of those businesses is a profoundly low labor number on that P&L. And I think the unfortunate intersection of labor and business is every business leader is looking at that P&L, and labor's almost always the biggest number on there. Bringing up AT&T, AT&T and T-Mobile and Verizon are just in this constant, can we provide the same service with less people? You see those three companies, and every 3 months they're doing another round of layoffs, and it's not because it's in a crisis, it's because that's their business. That they go out to just cut people. That is the MO. That is the procedure.
Yeah.
Is do the same with less people. Do the same with less people. They're like, can we start charging more for that cell phone plan? We can't. How do we increase the stock price? Let's see if we can do the same thing by slashing 30% of this.
Right.
And I think that's where it's like, I don't know where labor in the developed world goes.
Looks, I'm all about efficiency too and optimization, right? So if I can do less with more, I'm going to do it. However, there is a specific industry that needs to value their people, and I believe it's hospitality, right? I'm not saying this goes across all industries because, like I said, if I was working in sales, like why would I have an admin do X, Y, and Z when you can have agents essentially do the job a little, not even a little faster, a lot faster, right? And more accurately. I'm not anti-AI and anti-innovation, but I will say that I am anti-treating people like they're disposable within the industry that should value their people. Who needs to step up? Is it like, is it even the guest, right? Like, is it the guest that needs to start speaking up and being like, hey, I don't want to check into a hotel and I'm like going to talk to a robot and not getting I'm not being validated about my stay, and I'm being told this is my experience from an automated system. So does it need to be guest, or is it what level within the flow needs to really step up, and who's needs to be responsible for ensuring the viability of an industry like hospitality that does so much?
I feel like the pendulum is swinging, and it's swinging in a negative direction, but the pendulum never stops.
Yeah.
And it never corrects, it only overcorrects because it keeps that momentum. And right now it's in a place where even as the hospitality industry is struggling, when you see the opinions of the public on the industry, I'm getting price gouged at a time when you're a successful restaurant. If you're doing 5% margins, you're like, they're not price gouging you, they're surviving. And where we are in the cycle right now is these price increases have happened. And if anything, in the US, it's happened less than in Europe. In Europe, they're, I think, more recognizing of this. And they say Dallas specifically stands out as one of the markets where the clientele is least willing to flex on price. Price goes up, they're not going out, they're very check average sensitive. That was one of the things that they brought up in the Dallas Morning News article in December when they were saying that the North Texas restaurant market's in crisis, and I couldn't agree with that article more for all the metrics they brought up with it. But that was one of the interesting points, that our population has been very resistant to any price increases. And that's where you see record closings, and that's where you see more and more chains, because that's the only ones that have, big restaurant companies with private equity backing. And I'm not knocking those. They employ people and they create great experience, but they're not authentic. And they're not authentic because, like when we were at Dream, like the boutiques versus your Marriotts, the success of your Marriott is that if you were at a Marriott Hotel and Suites, it's the same if you're in Singapore or Detroit or, or San Francisco. And there's a Marriott guest that loves that. You can get up and go to the bathroom in the middle of the night and not stub your toe because it's the same bathroom and it's the same sink and it's the same bed and it's the same thing. I'm a Marriott guest and this is my hotel room. And, but brand standards, when the brand standards are to the brand and not to the market, that has a different impact.
Say that again.
When your brand standards are to the brand, not to the market, your Cheesecake Factory is your Cheesecake Factory. It's not Dallas Cheesecake Factory or Philadelphia Cheesecake Factory. It's Cheesecake Factory. They're not changing. They're giving you what they're giving regardless of market. The authentic might be mischaracterizing it, but it's local and mom and pop, and it's creating a concept based on what the neighborhood needs and creating it based on what we think the community is versus saying, this is me, this is what I do. I'm bringing this concept regardless of this nuance or that nuance.
Correct. That was their mentality. It's, this may be nuanced, but like I want to go somewhere where I can build something myself and not essentially have to abide by these said rules by this king or queen or whatever have you, right? It was like, hey, I want to start my own thing and I want to build my own thing. Like, why do you think that we got away from that? Because it seemed like there was some success. What's your high level interpretation of like why we're getting away from that outside of just like the pendulum swinging so far?
And it's that business efficiency we talked about.
It's just like, go down to business efficiency.
You're a huge restaurant or a huge hotel chain and your buying power is tremendous and you're getting health insurance for your employees for less and you're buying linens for less and you're buying sheet for your renovations for less because you're buying so much of it. But that enables you to not need to necessarily come into a market and say, my version of Philadelphia is going to be different than my version in Tulsa. And that's where it's the ones that are like, Tulsa and Philly are very different cities. No, we're coming in like a hammer and we are who we are regardless of market. We're true to our brand, not true to the market.
Correct. So is it more, that's what I'm saying. It feels like
it's sailing to a very different port.
And if it's based on the market, which is people, right? And I think that people, when we hear the market, we sometimes lose sight that it actually is connected to people, right? Consumers that have trends. And is the trend in not only in hospitality, do you feel like the trend is just, hey, I just want things more efficiently, quick?
Like with the big brands, like when we were working with the San Antonio Spurs, I know that we won the assignment to work with the San Antonio Spurs because of our nuance and because of adaptability. Because we were up against firms that were much bigger and much stronger and with much bigger history than us, but they came in as much more one size fits all. And they're like, we're going to do with you what we did with the St. Louis Cardinals and what we did with and when you go into a group like the San Antonio Spurs that have their own history and their own championships, and they're like, no, we're San Antonio. We're not, we're not Detroit. We're not St. Louis. We want it to be nuanced. We don't want our sports bar to be one size fits all. And that's where you're starting to see it, particularly on the sports side, because they have a strong enough brand that they don't want to compromise on their brand. That's where you have a brand collision. You have your Cheesecake Factory, and I'm using that as a thing, and you have your NBA team, your NFL team. That's where you have Jerry Jones and Steinbrenner creating legends just because they were like, our hospitality brand is going to be our brand. We do not find it acceptable to work with anything that it could possibly be
jeopardize our brand.
Or could be working counter to our brand. We don't want to come in and find the LA Dodgers are doing their food the way we are. We have to do it our way. And that's where you kind of have, the rock and the hard place. You have the freight train, freight trains coming together. And that's one where certainly the bigger brand's going to win. And that was one where I think that's probably, frankly, why AT&T chose me as their partner. For the same reason. If you come in and say, these are my brands and this is what I do, that's not what they want to hear. AT&T, we're a Fortune 10 company. You're going to move to us. We're not moving to you.
Correct.
You can't come in there. There is an aspect of Marriott's the strongest hotel company in the world. And Marriott is the strongest hotel company in the world because of their strict adherence to what they are. There was a level where if you were not performing as an asset, they would deflag you. You're no longer a Marriott. You know what you're going to get. But that was under Bill Marriott, who's, again, absolute institution. But it was, speaking candidly, it was a Mormon family. They were not very food and beverage oriented.
Yeah.
So food and beverage went by the wayside.
Yeah.
And that's where they finally started creating the soft brands, which under Marriott is Autograph, under Hilton is Curio and Cambria and some of the others, but Canopy, where can we do that thing where we have our brand standards, but that's where kind of the soft brands are that deliberate compromise from those two things of we love, and I think that's in the hotel world where it's really come, is the brand standards are in the rooms, the nuance is in the common space. The nuance is in the food and beverage. Your restaurant's going to be local, but your room is going to be your room and it's the same room.
Correct.
And I think that's kind of where the hotel world's found it. Where food and beverage finds it, I don't know. Because right now, I think even the successful restaurants that do it without compromise, and it's something that particularly for young people in the industry, they don't understand it. And it's not their fault that they don't understand it. But you cannot do a restaurant without compromise if you're doing it to do a restaurant.
What do you mean?
Take Time Warner Center. Most expensive apartments in New York City. They did the Mandarin Oriental there, so it was the top hotel in New York at the time. And they opened up 2-3 Michelin star restaurants in one building.
Yeah.
They did Masa and they did Per Se. And they were both done with no concern whatsoever for cost. No corners were cut, no compromises were made, no value engineering. But they're selling condos upstairs at $10,000 a foot. So they can compromise. They don't have to compromise on the food and beverage because the food and beverage isn't about the food and beverage. Like Daniel Boulud, when Danielle was the most in-demand restaurant in the country and the hardest reservation to get, he was able to do that with no compromises because he was a huge component of this big Upper East Side wealthy building. That was a big thing for them to have him. If that building was in a parking lot, no way. Can't do it.
Yeah.
Per se in a parking lot, you have to cut corners. So I think a lot of young people in the industry, and understandably, it's easier to be romantic about it. You take the case of an 11 Madison Park. It got best restaurant in the world, but it's owned by a billionaire. If that thing loses $2 million a year, he does not care. He owns the best restaurant in the world. That's the most interesting thing about that guy.
Yeah, literally.
But it's even the books about it are written as if it's in a vacuum, and it's not in a vacuum. And it gives the impression of, oh, you're not doing these things in unreasonable hospitality or setting the table by Danny Meyer because you're not trying hard enough.
Like, you're not anticipating enough.
You're like, I couldn't pay for, the horse and carriage to take these people to the park to play in the snow because I can't cover payroll because, the cost of limes is through the roof and our insurance is double what it was 2 years ago. So I would love to. That's an amazing idea. But I think there's a lot of young people in the industry that watch the TV or read those kinds of books, and they're like, why are these local guys just not doing it? Why is my boss not? It's like, not because we don't want to. Right. It's just we don't have a billionaire going, lost $2 million, but the brand's worth 10. Don't care. Yeah. You're like, if you're just operating, it's like that. Like luxury hotels is one of the final institutions where fine dining can still exist because it's not about the P&L. And I say this to developers all the time, if our restaurant raises more value to your property, and that's why you're doing this, let's do that. If you're doing this for your restaurant to make money, investing in a ground up restaurant makes sense. No, it doesn't. Right. It does not.
Not right now.
The cost of the HVAC units, the cost of the venting, the cost of the permits, you're like,
upside down.
Yeah. Oh, I hope you like 15-year returns. Yeah. And when the average restaurant's making it less than 3, you're like, maybe on the 5th gen you'll get paid back and be at break even. Right. And be like, we could do a mutual fund.
Yeah. What would be enticing to an investor, right? Because even if I think about those nuanced brands like Legends, right? Like how could it's a 2-part question, right? How could someone like the Legends scale, right? Because if they're very nuanced, and yes, you can get a few big players, or
the problem with Legends is Legends has tried to get into the other space, but they're built for environments where they have a captive audience.
Okay.
So they've had great success at the stadiums, but they did Discovery District after us and removed
Correct.
in less than a year because they're not used to bringing people there.
Correct. And that's what I'm saying. Like they're
selling prime rib to people that are there to see the Cowboys.
Correct.
They're not selling prime rib to people.
And that's what I'm saying. So for a brand like them, right, how does a brand like that scale? And then I think the second question that I had as it related to being able to scale like a Nuance brand would be, how do you make it attractive to investors, right?
Legends is scaling by going after the Levies and Aramarks of the world, but they can't play in the restaurant game. The restaurant game is like driving a motorcycle. You're turning on a dime, you're accelerating, slamming on the brakes. They're still a cruise ship. They're not, Aramark's an iceberg.
Got it.
Legends is a cruise ship, and your average restaurant is a motorcycle.
Right. So you're saying, so for investors, this is not an attractive venture for investors simply because price of goods are too high, or is there other factors that can flip to that would make this industry more viable?
We've talked about it a bit, that I think the biggest one is the government.
Yep.
Our biggest expense in restaurants is taxes.
Okay.
They tax us thoroughly.
Yeah.
People think that Texas is a great restaurant market, but it's not. It's a terrible restaurant market. We have our HR company represents restaurants all around the country. Like North Texas is the worst. That's the one hurting the most. There's tons of competition, and that competition enables the guest to not have to have, it gives you that pressure on price point. Right. You can't raise your prices if the guy across the street isn't, because you'll immediately lose your guests. So that's where, when there's so much competition, you're really stuck. And so I think, again, restaurants, the expansion of restaurants today, and I hope it goes to being that a standalone restaurant is more viable. But you've seen that the last few years, everything's about second-gen restaurant space, because they're like, at least I'm going to come in, there's going to be a kitchen, and there's going to be a venting system, and there's going to be bathrooms, and there's going to be floor drains, and I'm not like investing in toilets and sinks and, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of infrastructure before you even get to square one of what color are my walls? What do my floors look like? How many chairs do I have? Can I cool my space? Can I heat my space? Can I pass Department of Health by washing my floors? Is there a place to go to the bathroom? Is the venting going to pass inspections and be able to make a viable operation? And that stuff is so expensive.
Yeah.
And that's stuff that we're coming to this intersection where landlords have been very resistant to enter the restaurant market. They hate the restaurant market, and they hate the restaurant market for great reason. However, they have no choice.
Right.
If you're an office building owner, if you're developing a retail center, it's like how grocery anchored retail used to be. If you want to lease up your vacant office building, you can't have your grab and go Murphy's Deli. If you are trying to support return to work, if you're trying to support a landlord and leasing up vacant office space, which is a crisis right now, it was a crisis pre-COVID, just amplified it
for sure.
So now it's, if you want to compete, you need to leave the rigid ways of looking at the market. I'm an office investor. That space down there, you pay me rent, and you can see the buildings that are full and the ones that aren't.
Right, definitely. They definitely have to get really, really creative, right? Like, you've seen a lot of, mass offices turn into, apartment living, right? And, having some type of retail space below or on top, those have seemed to have a little success. I want to touch back on the taxation, right?
Sure.
You mentioned something the other day that I dug into and I thought was so fascinating. You compared the alcohol taxation to cigarettes. Could you share a little bit about that, and then what you think that as an industry we can do to combat some of this price gouging and taxation?
Yeah, I think there's an unspoken vice tax.
Right.
In the sense that, at the peak, cigarettes were smoked by over 40% of, adults in America. And in the 80s, they doubled the taxes. And then in the 90s, they tripled the taxes on that double taxes. Mm-hmm. And then in the 2000s, I think they took it 3 or 4x again.
Right.
And it got to the point where to your tobacco, to your cigarette provider, more than 50% of their expense was taxes.
Right.
And that got passed through to the guest until it priced it out.
Right.
And I believe their taxes also went to anti-smoking campaign ads.
Right.
So those were happening. Basically, the government decided we're done with people smoking cigarettes, and they killed it. And cigarettes went from being about $2 a pack to about $6.50, and now 11% of adults smoke cigarettes, and in the 18 to 25-year-old set, it's 5. So the future is even more bleak for U.S. tobacco.
Right.
And no judgment on that. That's just the numbers.
Right.
But it's something of, are cigarettes bad for you? Absolutely. But is the government supposed to be that heavy-handed in making their citizens say, we're going to tax this industry and take the money from the taxes to create ads for anti-smoking campaigns? And now you have it with alcohol, where we get taxed 8.25% that the guests see, and then 6.7% in gross receipts mixed beverage tax, and then franchise tax on top of it. And franchise tax is also really negative to the restaurant industry because it's based on your gross number, not your net. So when you're in an industry like restaurants that has a high gross revenue but a low net number, like you're getting creamed on franchise tax for money you're not making because it's just on the top line. You can have a $10 million restaurant that's not profitable because your labor's right there and your cost of goods is right there and your insurance is right there. And they're taking on every drink before you get into franchise tax or anything else. You're already at 15%. You're at 8.25% plus 6.7 on that drink. And when you're in an industry making that 5% margin is success and they're taking 15, that's a butt whooping.
Yeah.
As other industries are not paying nearly that much. And we took the example of nursing homes. Their biggest client is the U.S. government. That's who's paying them, Medicare, Medicaid, and they are crushing it. Restaurants are in crisis. So there's a level of those guys are going to do great, those guys are going to do terrible. And a deliberate decision towards those two things by how they tax those two industries. And if they destroy the restaurant industry, I do not know what happens to that employment and what happens to all of these people that need that third space, which frankly is every single person in the universe. You certainly see it now with baby boomers in the sense of baby boomers in at least pre-retirement ones are spending and behaving similar in the sense that they're reconnecting with old friends that they had lost touch with since they had kids. And now they're back, like you say, breaking bread, having reigniting those relationships of someone they were friends with at 20 because they had 25 years where it was really all about kids, and now they're back into it, and it's having a hospitality experience that smooths that along, makes them a lot less lonely.
How important is nightlife to the industry? We talk about alcohol, right? Sales are down, but like how important is it, not obviously bringing people together, but just overall, why is it important?
So I'll use an example. I opened up a PhD, which was Penthouse at Dream in 2000, and it was 4,500 square feet. And I designed the whole thing for everyone to be facing each other.
Yeah. So
all the seating was stadiumed for line of sight. And the same year, Andre Balaz opened up, they call it the top of the standard. It was the Boom Room. It's where the whole Jay-Z got in the fight in the elevator on that one. So we were neck and neck. Within a year, they were their sales were in half. We were doing 30 million to the top just in that room. They were doing 30 to the top. And we were both doing 50 on the whole building. But their centerpiece was the highest. So everything with them was about the view. Everything with us was about the people. 10 years later, we were still doing those numbers. We did $270 million over 10 years in 4,500 square feet. And it was because everything in nightlife is about interaction. It's about creating an environment where people that might not be comfortable interacting with each other are comfortable interacting with each other. The lights, the smoke, the music. You're a person, I'm a person. I can see you, you can see me. I might not be able to dance that well, but these lights make it look like I'm awesome. Everything is built for this interaction. And successful nightlife is built around this interaction. And it's something that if you go to a restaurant is designed for you to create memories and have an experience with the people you came with. Nightlife is built for you to have memories and exchanges with people you haven't met yet.
Ooh, that is a bar. That is a bar. No pun intended, because it's bar.
Yes.
Wow, that's incredible. That's exactly what it is.
You're like, I'm going out with my 4 friends, and we're going to meet some people.
Yeah.
And we're going to like some people. And we might not like everybody, but we're going to meet some new people tonight. And alcohol helps that, and lights help that, and music helps that. People find common ground on music, dancing. People find common, and again, the lights and the smoke machines, that's just about taking people's self-consciousness down.
Wow.
Can you just be a person?
Yep.
You're a person, I'm a person.
Let's figure it out.
You're gay, I'm straight. Can we be cool?
Sure can. Yeah.
You're black, I'm white. Whatever it is, like the lights and the smoke and all of that is just, I think of it, I used to run a youth group for high school kids with Young Life. And I used to do things every week that I was deliberately trying to be so embarrassing that all of the kids felt comfortable being themselves. So I'm like, I would do something that I'd pretend to juggle. I couldn't juggle. I'd fall off the stage. I would do something, run into the wall. And then the kids are like, I can dance. Right. Now I'm not like, everyone's looking at me. I'm not a great dancer. It's like, he just fell off the stage. So I'm cool. But Nightlife, it's the same thing. It's what makes it successful. The design, the lights, an owner might be opening it up and not knowing why they're doing those things, but the successful ones are because they're doing those things. You are creating an environment for people to meet new people and feel comfortable in their own skin.
Yeah. This is incredible. Man, this series is about to be insane. I'm loving every bit of it. We're just warming up. I'm like, we haven't even really scratched the surface, which is crazy. And I feel like I've already learned so much. I know our audience has. They're going to learn some great respect for what you do, and people like you, right? So I wish I could just duplicate this version of energy and passion into the industry and into starting here locally, right? And then cascading that, right? Because the last thing I want to see is this industry, fall to the wayside, nightlife fall to the wayside, because I have so many experiences, so many, people and connections that I've met through this space, right? And I have a passion for this space, and it's clear that you do too as well. So I look forward to building on top of this conversation.
And I think our industry, like a lot of others, people treat their own knowledge as something for them to control and keep. And they say, those are my experiences.
Right.
But if we're going to accelerate as an industry, if we're going to survive as an industry, I don't believe the knowledge I've learned over all these bumps and bruises and wins and losses and everything in between, that I want to share them openly. And I hope if it helps accelerate someone else's learning, then if they didn't have to fall down the stairs to learn it, then great.
Yeah, no, and I'll close with this. That's what we call gatekeeping. And there was a gentleman who he was a senior linebacker. I was a freshman at Wake Forest. And this is the first time I ever learned about gatekeeping, right? This linebacker would essentially tell me to go to the wrong gap, right? Because I was playing behind him. And he would be like, hey, you're supposed to blitz through the B gap. Mind you, I've only played 1 year of football prior to going to college, right? My senior year. And I would just be like, oh, okay. And then I would get yelled at, and I would be like, you just told me to go through that gap. And that was like my first time really learning that people even on the same team, right? We're on the same team. I'm being told the opposite of what to do. And I just think that's fragmentation, and that's not what's good for the industry. I'm great on competing, right? We're on the same team. Let's compete against the other team. Don't point me in the wrong direction. So that's just a little nugget for the hospitality industry, because that happens as well within that space. But we are running out of time. That is the time that we have for today, but we will be back. I am so excited for this series.
Me as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Kevin Lillis, thank you for tuning in to Electric Theory, and we will see you again next time. Thanks for tuning into Electric Theory, where we believe people aren't just a part of the business, they are the business. If today's episode sparked an idea, helped you shift perspective, or gave you something to act on, do me a favor, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who leads with people. I'm Joshua from Bohemian Capital, and remember, culture isn't soft, it's a system. Until next time, stay electric.